Hello everyone, welcome to the daily editorial analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy, 12th February 2025. Displayed here are the list of articles that we will be discussing today. The first article, Trust in the Taxpayer. The article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express. The second article, A Legal Remedy that Perpetuates Survivor Trauma. The article is taken from the newspaper The Hindu. So without much delay, let's begin our discussion with the first article. Trust in the Taxpayer. The article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express. Recently, the Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman announced that the people who earn below or up to 12 lakh per month don't need to pay the income tax. This move of the government is providing a great relief to the Indian taxpayers because nearly 85% of the Indian taxpayers are coming under this category. They are earning, their maximum earning is up to 12 lakh. And this move of the government is expected to boost the economy through boosting the demand in the economy, because we know that the private consumption fell below 6%, especially in the urban area. There was a slight improvement in the private consumption in the rural area, but the urban area private consumption fell below 6%. And we know that India is committed to the Regressive Bharat goal 2047, and for that we need a consistent growth of economy at the rate of 8%. Then only we can achieve the Regressive Bharat by 2047. So in this background, we are going to see what is meant by tax, what are the different types of tax, and what are the recent reforms brought by the government in the taxation system of India. And then we will also see what will be the impact, what are the possible impact of this government move. So first we will begin with the definition of the tax. Tax is a mandatory financial charge imposed by the government on individuals, organizations and business. And according to Article 265 of the Indian Constitution, the Article 265 of the Indian Constitution comes under the Part 12 of the Indian Constitution, says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. That means only the government or the government organizations has the right to collect the tax. No private organizations in India has the right to collect tax. And at the same time, we know that the tax evasion, that means refusing to pay the tax, the liable tax, is punishable under the Income Tax Act 1961. So tax is a mandatory financial charge imposed by the government on the individuals, private organizations and business entities. And according to Article 265 of the Indian Constitution, the Part 12 of the Indian Constitution says that no authority except the government has the right or authority to collect the tax from the people or from the organizations. Coming to the taxation power in India, we can classify the taxation power under three lists. First one is the union list. So entry 82 to 92A of the Indian Constitution talks about the taxes collected by the central government. This includes income tax, corporate tax and a GST, that is goods and service tax on interstate trade. And coming to the state list, and entry 46 to 63 of the state list talks about the taxes collected by the state government. That includes the property tax, excise on liquor and GST on intrastate, that means the trade within the state. And the concurrent list talks about the taxes collected by both the central and the state government. It includes the tax, stamp duty and other shared tax. Coming to the legal obligations and enforcement of tax, tax evasion is a criminal offence. Like I mentioned before, it is a criminal offence under Income Tax Act 1961. And it can also, if you practices like tax evasion can lead to penalties and imprisonment. And at the same time, GST fraud or evasion of GST is punishable under the GST Act 2017. The punishment is mentioned in section 122 to 138. And coming to the types of tax, the type of tax can be broadly divided into direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax are the tax which are directly collected from the organizations or from the individuals, and indirect tax are the indirectly paid tax. So direct taxes are directly collected, and the burden of this tax is non-transferable. That means if you are earning a particular income, for example, if you are getting 1 lakh per month, you are responsible to pay the particular percentage of tax from that income. And in the case of indirect tax, if the government increases the tax, then you can shift the burden to the consumer. For example, if you are running a goods shop, if the government increases the tax, then you can increase the price of the goods and you can share the burden of the tax in the case of indirect tax. But that is not possible in the case of direct tax. And the direct tax policy is governed by the Income Tax Act 1961. And in the case of indirect tax, it is governed by the GST Act 2017 and the Customs Act 1962. And some of the examples of the direct tax includes the income tax, that means it is imposed on the individual's earning. And the next we have the corporate tax, it is imposed on the company's profit, net profit. And next we have the capital gain tax, it is a tax imposed on the profit that you got from the sale of the asset, for example land. And next we have the Securities Transaction Act. It includes the it imposes, this tax is imposed on the stocks that you traded. And in the case of some examples of the indirect tax includes the GST, that is goods and services tax, and the customs duty, which is important on the export and import of the goods. And then we have the excise duty, which is now imposed only on petroleum and alcohol, but before that we used to impose excise duty on manufacturing too, but now the excise duty is not imposed on manufacturing. And next we are going to see two type of taxation system. First one is the progressive taxation, and next one is a regressive taxation. So progressive taxation, here the people who getting high income has to pay more tax, and the people who are getting low income has to pay low tax. This system is known as progressive taxation, and it has a capacity to reduce the income inequality in the society and equitable distribution of the resource. But on other side, this progressive taxation in long term can discourage the investment in the economy. And on other side, the regressive taxation, it is a type of taxation system where the income or the tax is imposed irrespective of the income of the people. That means here the people from the low income group will experience tax burden. For example, if you take the fuel tax itself, if the government is increasing the fuel price, for example, the government is increasing the fuel price to 200 rupees, then every person in India, if it is rich or poor, they have to pay the rupees 200 per liter. That means the regressive taxation is imposed irrespective of the income of the people. That's why it is bringing more burden on the people from the low income group. And coming to the next topic, that is a recent reforms in the Indian taxation. First, we are going to see the milestone development in the recent time, that was the implementation of the Goods and Services Act 2017. This unified the Indian tax system and at the same time reduced the complexity. And the next we have the corporate tax cut. This initiative was taken, this was implemented in the year 2019, and under this the corporate tax was reduced from 30% to 22%, and for existing firms, and for new firms in the market the corporate tax was just 15%. So through this the government attempted to encourage the MSMEs, but unfortunately this step did not bring expected result. And next initiative taken in the next reform taken in the taxation in India was a faceless tax assessment system 2020. This initiative was introduced to reduce corruption and enhance transparency in the taxation. That means under this faceless tax assessment, the taxpayer and the tax officer will not come in direct contact. That means they will not meet each other. That means the taxpayer don't have to go to the tax office, or the tax officer don't have to go to the tax payer. So it reduces the possibility of influencing each other, thereby it will reduce the possibility of corruption and enhances the tax administration. And next we have the recently introduced new income tax regime 2020-2025. So in 2020 there was a relaxation in the taxation, but at the same time the government reduced deduction and subsidy. In 2025 now the government went for another reform, that is the people who are earning below 12 lakh will not have to pay income tax. So we have to wait for the result, how it is going to reflect in the economy. This reform is going to reflect in the economy. And the next we have the direct tax code rationalization. So now the government is continuing the steps to simplify and unify the tax system in India, and to encourage the people and to make the economy more inclusive. And coming to the next topic, that is the impact of the new tax regime. That means under 12 lakh the people are exempted from the income tax. So how this is going to impact the economy and other aspects in the society. The first we are going to see the economic impact of this. So this will boost the consumption in the economy, and because we know that recently the private consumption fell below 6% in the urban area, and therefore we need to boost the demand in the economy. And next one is a multiplier effect. That means encouraging the multiplier effect. We know that if you take the economy, for better clarification you can read the 12th NCRT macroeconomics chapter 3. Go through that chapter. It is talking about the multiplier effect. That means if you take the economy, there are important multipliers, like investment is an example of multiplier, government expenditure is an example of multiplier, consumption is an example of multiplier. That means if you can boost any multiplier in the economy, then it can revive the economy. That is a concept. So here what the government is planning to do is that they are planning to boost the consumption multiplier. That means if there is a demand, then there will be efforts for increasing the supply. That means the the investors, if the investors are saying that for a particular product has a demand in a particular economy, then they will be ready to invest in that particular product. So that's what the government is planning to do now. They are trying to boost the consumption in the economy. And the next is the physical cost. Yes, the exemption or this tax regime is bringing a cost of 1 lakh crore loss for the government, but still the government has introduced this regime. And the next is social impact. Coming to the social impact, first is the middle class relief, inequality concerns, and formal employment. That means the increasing the disposable income. So the government is reducing the tax. For example, if you take a salary of a person, income of a person, for example, a person is getting 100 rupees per month, and 100 rupees he has to pay 20 rupees for the tax, and he has to pay he has remaining 80 rupees. That is for his consumption. So now what the government is doing, that they are reducing the 20 to 10. Just imagine, this is a hypothetical situation. Just imagine, so the government is reducing that tax rate from 20 to 10. Therefore the consumer or the people will have 90 rupees in their hand, so they can go for better expenditure. So that's what the middle class relief is mean by. That means increasing the disposable income. This 90 rupees is known as the disposable income. The equation of disposable income is total income minus tax. So that the result will be the disposable income. So increasing the disposable income of the people will to boost the consumption. And inequality concerns. That means even if the government is giving this kind of liberal efforts, still the people with a high salary are getting benefits comparing with the people from the low salary. And the next one is people will look for formal employment for tax incentives. And the next is how it is going to impact the business. That means increased savings and investment and sectoral growth and the MSME impact. That means the people will have more savings in their hand. Now the government reduced the tax, therefore they will have more disposable income. So they will go for investment or savings, and if they can they can make investment in the mutual fund, and it can also lead to sectoral growth. That means if they have more money, there is a possibility that they will invest, they will spend on consumer goods, they will spend on tourism, like that. And the next is the MSME. The MSME businesses can boost. That means this reform can boost the MSME business, because the people will have more money in their hand, therefore they will go for more consumer goods. This has a potential to boost the position of MSME in the economy. So coming to the impact on government, the government may experience a short-term revenue loss. That means as per the estimation, now the government lost, if due to this tax regime, the government will experience a loss of 1 lakh crore, right? So a short-term revenue loss will be experienced by the government, and shift to the indirect tax. That means if they are the income tax is not applicable to the people who are earning up to 12 lakh per year, therefore the government has to focus more on indirect tax. And the next is social spending impact. That means this reduction, this loss of revenue can bring a financial strain in social investment, the social sector investment, example in the field of education, health, like that. And the next is behavioral impact. Coming to the behavioral impact, we can see this regime has simplified the tax filing. There is a potential that this regime will reduce the tax evasion cases. Challenges in the tax administration. The first major challenge is the tax evasion, because the people will not pay the tax actually they meant to pay, right? They will distort the documents, and they will hide their asset from the government, and they will save the money from paying the tax. And the next is black money is another major concern in the economy, because the black money can even threaten the security of a nation, because the black money will illegally reach we don't know, sometimes it can even reach the terrorist organizations. And that's why we know that the Financial Action Task Force in the international level, they are regulating the crimes related to black money and taking adequate steps to prevent the money laundering and all. And the next is the low tax base in the economy, because in the last financial year, only 6.68% of the Indians only filed the ITR, that is income tax returns. And we know that now the government is exempted from the direct tax or the income tax. On the other side, there is a potential possibility that there will be an increase in the indirect tax. So that is regressive in nature, which will bring more burden on the low income community. And the next is complex complaints. That refers to the uncertainty in the financial policy of India. For example, we can see now the government reduced or gave exemption up to 12 lakh. But we don't know what will happen in the near future. So the government is planning to boost the economy through demand. But on the other side, if there is an uncertainty about the financial framework of the government, then there is a possibility that the people will go for more saving in the economy. So if the saving, if there is an increase in the saving in the economy, does not mean there is an increasing income in the economy. That is known as paradoxical thrift. It is a concept discussed in the macroeconomics. That means if the people increase their savings, the total money in the economy will not increase. That will remain as same, or that will reduce. And the next is litigation and disputes. At now in the court, nearly 4.8 lakh tax cases are pending. And there are challenges associated with the GST implementation. This is the next major challenge, because the returns of the GST, and there is a biggest criticism against the GST is that it is not inclusive in nature. That is, it is discouraging the MSMEs. So these are the major challenges that the Indian tax administration is facing now. So in this topic, we discussed what is tax, what are the different types of tax, and legal basis of Indian tax administration and challenges. And then we also discuss what will be the impact of the new tax regime introduced by the union government. And based on our discussion, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, how will the revised income tax regime offering relief to taxpayers earning below 12 lakh impact consumption, savings, government revenue, and economic inequality? Suggest measures for balanced fiscal management. The question is very simple. The question is asking about how this tax exception will impact the consumption, savings, government revenue, and income inequality. So first of all, income inequality can be reduced. And the next is the government is planning to boost the consumption of the people. Through that we are trying to boost the economy. But if if there is an uncertainty about the government policy, then the people will go for more savings. And what we are expecting is that the savings as well as the consumption of the people will increase. And coming to the government revenue, the government will experience a loss of rupees 1 lakh crore. And we have to face, the government may go for regressive taxation policy, which will bring another burden on the low income group. So these are the hint points that you can write for answering the question, and it is a 15 marks question, and you have to write around 250 words. Post it in the comment section. We will review and we will reply for your answer. Now it's time to move to the next article. A legal remedy that perpetuates survivor trauma. The article is taken from the newspaper The Hindu. The article is actually a criticism to the recent Allahabad High Court judgments in sexual abuse case, that is in the Adul Gautam versus State of Uttar Pradesh, and before that in the last year in the Abhishek versus State of Uttar Pradesh and others, and in the year 2022 Ramashankar versus State of Uttar Pradesh. In these cases, the Allahabad High Court granted bail to the rape accused on the ground that they will marry the survivor. So this is raising a lot of questions about the rights of women, and it is raising questions about the impartiality of the court justice, and it is also raising questions about how the judgment of the Allahabad High Court is reinforcing the patriarchal norms back in the society. So in this background, we are going to discuss how this judgment is affecting the rights of women, and what are the constitutional provisions involved in this judgment and cases. So first, the major issue of this article is the problematic practice, that is the granting bail to the rape accused on the ground of marrying the survivor. And what are the concerns associated with this? That is, it is violating the survivor's autonomy. That means that it is going against the choice or the decision of the rights and freedom of the survivor, and legitimizes coercive and unequal relationship. That means on the promise of marrying the women, the court is granting bail to the accused. So indirectly the court is giving legal backup for an exploitative marriage and or a forced marriage. And the next is shift state responsibility from welfare to judiciary, and also creates a conflict of interest in the trial. That means, like I mentioned in the beginning, this kind of judgments are raising significant questions about the impartiality of the court or the judiciary. And now we are going to see what are the constitutional rights involved in this case. First one is the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, that is right to life and personal liberty. So you can see that the giving bail to the abuser, we are going against the right to life and the liberty of the survivor. And the next is Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, that is right to equality. That is through this kind of judgments, the Allahabad High Court is reinforcing regressive stereotypes, that is violating the gender equality. And it is also contradicting the constitutional morality, because the constitution gives importance to all population in the state, especially the women and children. And the constitution directly mentions about the provisions to protect the women and children from exploitation. And the next is Article 15 Clause 3, that empowers the state to make special provisions for the protection and development of women and children. That is, the state must provide special support to the survivors. And key judicial precedents, that means what are the cases before this Adul case. First one is Abarna Bhatt versus State of Madhya Pradesh 2021. In this case, the court held that the bail condition should not reinforce stereotyping in the society. And the next one is the government should take step to avoid direct contact between the survivor and the culprit, because there is a possibility of a secondary trauma. Considering this, the court gave direction to the government that there should not be any direct contact between the survivor and the culprit. And the next case is the Kunal Kumar Tiwari versus State of Bihar 2017. In this case, the Bihar High Court held that the bail conditions must be in the interest of justice, and it should not be arbitrary or go against the legal limits. And the next is right to privacy of adolescents 2024. In this case, the court held that the state must provide shelter, food and education to the survivors, and in case if the state fails to do this, then eventually the survivors, there is a possibility that they have to depend on the perpetrators. That means sometimes the abuse can be from family members or even from the husband. So if the state is not giving adequate attention to this, then the women or the people who got abused have to depend again on the abusers. So this has to be avoided. And now we are going to see the basics of the bail. Bail, the definition of the bail is a conditional release of an accused person with a guarantee or with an assurance that he will appear before the court whenever he is called. And what are the different types of bail? First type of bail is the regular bail, which is mentioned in the section 437 and 439 of CRPC, which is usually given to the person who got arrested. And you have to note one thing: the bail is not, it is not proving that you are innocent. That is a conditional release. That is just a conditional release from the custody to avoid illegal detention. That is the only principle behind the bail. It does not mean that you are innocent. And it is a condition that whenever the court or the police station is called, you have to be present. And the next is anticipatory bail. So this bail is this is mentioned in the section 438 of the Criminal Procedure Code, and it is given before the arrest. That means if a person is expecting an arrest, he can apply for the anticipatory bail. And the next is interim bail. That is a temporary relief to the people who got arrested in case if there is a pending of decisions, or in case if there is any pending of anticipatory bail in the court and all. And the next is a default bail. Default bail, if the procedures are going very slow. That means if there is if the police cannot file the charge sheet in a specific time, in that time, to prevent illegal detention, there is a possibility of default bail. That is, the people will be released on condition. And what are the problems with this marriage as a bail condition, or what are the problems associated with the judgments from the Allahabad High Court? First one, it is violating the survivor's autonomy. That is, the marriage must be consensual and it should not be forced. And this type of marriage, that means the marriage as a bail condition, in this type of cases, the abused will become dependent on the perpetrators, and definitely the relationship will be imbalanced, and the people who got abused have to face a long prolonged trauma. And the next is conflict of interest in the trials. That is, survivor's testimony may be influenced by the fear or societal pressure. That means the court is granting bail on the marriage condition, then there is a possibility of a great pressure on the women or on the abused people. So therefore, from the society and from the family, therefore without their or against their choice, they have to accept the marriage proposals in this type of cases. And this, we know that it is a primitive practices which was existed in the ancient societies, ancient or in the early medieval societies. The next is creation of perverse intendency for the accused. That means just imagine that if the culprit has influence and money, then there is a possibility of manipulating the survivors, and at the same time, through this kind of judgments, the abuse may continue with legal protection. There is a possibility. And the next is neglect of the state responsibility. That is, the state must provide rehabilitation, financial aid and education to the people who got exploited or got harassed. But here you can see, through this kind of settlement, the state is stepping back from this kind of responsibility, which is again creating social issues. So in this topic, we discussed what are the problems associated with the Allahabad High Court decision, and what are the constitutional provisions involved in this type of judgments. So based on our discussion, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, granting bail to rape accused on the condition of marriage with the survivors raise concerns, serious concerns about the constitutional morality, judicial ethics, and gender justice. Critically analyze. So this question is asking about how the the granting of bail on the condition of marriage is raising concerns about with the survivor raises concerns about the constitutional morality, judicial ethics, and gender justice. You can see the important constitution articles like Article 15 against the discrimination, Article 15 clause 3, Article 19 again, right to freedom, Article 21 right to personal liberty. All these type of constitutional principles are violated in this type of settlements. And the next is judicial ethics. That means this type of settlement, we know that this kind of settlements, that means okay, giving bail on the ground of marrying the the survivor. This type of judgments was given in the ancient or in the medieval times, not in the modern times, right? So this type of judgments raises significant questions about the impartiality of the judiciary, at the same time the nature of justice. And the next is gender justice, how this type of judgments are impacting the gender justice. We know that through the there is a possibility of manipulating the survivors and forcing them to enter in marriage with the abuser can lead to long-term prolonged psychological trauma and other issues. So this is creating an imbalance in the relationship, and therefore the culprit will, again, there is a possibility if they enter into the marriage, there is a possibility that they will the culprit will again exploit the women or the abused. So this is how the gender justice is violated in this type of scenario. So you can address these hints while writing the answer and post it in the comment section. We will review and we will reply for your answer. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's editorial analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And before leaving this channel, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time update from Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you.